This October marks 75 years celebrating our men and women who served in the United States Army in Hawaii. Starting with World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Iraq and Afghanistan wars, our servicemen and women continue to sacrifice, allowing us to enjoy our way of life. The members of IBEW Local 1186 are proud of the history and connection between the Army and our community. We are blessed and honored by their legacy of service. They are our ohana.
Aloha Hawaii, I'm Kimo Kahoano, and with me, the ever-lovely Carol Kai.
Well, thank you, Kimo. Welcome to a very special edition of Hawaii Stars, the U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii. Kimo, this October, U.S. Army celebrates 75 years of service from the men and women who served in the United States Army in Hawaii.
Wow, that's amazing. And U.S. Garrison Hawaii traces its roots back to the District of Hawaii, a command formed in 1910.
So we took our Hawaii Stars camera to Schofield Barracks and learned about the early history of the 25th Infantry.
Next, we got a first-hand story about the morning of December 7th from Ben Akuhito, who lived in Wahiawa and witnessed the bombing.
Then we headed out to Schofield Barracks, where we learned about the Army today from 25th Infantry Division Commanding General Major General Charles A. Flynn. U.S. Army, celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii, is brought to you by IBEW Local 1186, lighting your path to the future, and the Plumbers and Fitters Union, Local 675.
Caring for quality and having pride in the jobs we do. Committed to a workforce of vibrant, active members who are thoroughly trained and technically skilled in safety. Nationally recognized for outstanding achievement in apprenticeship training, we are the Plumbers and Fitters Local Union 675, proudly celebrating more than 90 years of service to the people of Hawaii.
There's nonstop fun for everyone at the 50th State Fair. Dare to ride the awesome new Equinox. Check out the new games, live entertainment, plus our popular petting zoo. And catch the magical thrills of the amazing Anastassini Circus. Yes, there's something fun for everyone. Come one, come all to the Summer Extravaganza. The 50th State Fair, this weekend at Aloha Stadium.
Announcing Pizza Hut's new Applewood smoked bacon and melty cheese. Stuffed in the crust. Pizza Hut's Bacon Stuffed Crust Pizza is here, now with Applewood smoked bacon. And loaded with cheese in one irresistible crust. Just $17.99, only at Pizza Hut. You're making me crazy.
This segment of U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii is brought to you by The Cab. Call 422-2222.
Welcome back to U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii.
The United States Army has a long tradition in Hawaii, dating as far back as the early 1900s.
Even way back then, a strong military presence was important to the stability and safety of our country. Peaceful, simple, agrarian. Sugarcane and pineapple fields filled the landscape of Oahu during the early 1900s.
So it was a very rural community. Honolulu was very small scale, didn't have any of the skyscrapers that we see today.
Hawaii was a U.S. territory back then, and the military had a presence, a smaller presence.
They began with Fort Shafter and Fort Ruger and Armstrong, right around 1907, 1908, 1909. And Schofield Barracks gets established right after those in 1909.
The buildup of the U.S. military continued in the 1930s with Wheeler Army Airfield and Hickam.
And so the military began to increase its presence dramatically in the 1930s with a great buildup. So all the airfields were in place by 1941.
And that led up to the activation of the Army's 25th Infantry Division.
Well, the 25th Infantry Division was organized on 1 October 1941 from the Hawaiian Division, which was an organization that was at Schofield Barracks since 1921. So, as part of an Army reorganization that was happening during the period, the Hawaiian Division was broken up into two smaller division formations, the 24th and the 25th Infantry Divisions. They were both organized at Schofield Barracks.
Little did they know that only 2 months later, the Japanese would attack Pearl Harbor, thrusting the U.S. into World War II.
And of course, after the attack, then they built up even greater at a logarithmic scale. They were building up because the war was on.
Coming up, how the community pulled together working alongside the military.
And first-hand accounts about that infamous day when Pearl Harbor was attacked.
Live life at Keaho Place, Kaka'ako's transformation to a modern, architecturally diverse transit station neighborhood. Now under construction, choose from tower or townhouse living with convenient shops, restaurants, and a future transit station. Keaho Place offers a unique urban contemporary lifestyle in the heart of Honolulu.
Aloha, I'm Stanford Carr. We're proud to present Keaho Place, an innovative new way to live. Stanford Carr Development. We know Hawaii and we build for Hawaii.
Kalailoa Partners is reliable.
Kalailoa Partners is efficient.
We are producing approximately 20% of Oahu's electricity annually. We are burning the refinery's waste oil, and we can also burn biofuels and gas, such as LNG, if made available to us. Our efficiency is approximately 44% versus conventional plants, which are in a low 30% range.
Kalailoa Partners is here to stay.
You heard the good news. Good news? Yeah, for every dollar you spend using your Hawaiian Miles credit card with the cab, you get 3 Hawaiian Miles. 3? We? Me? Yeah, you, and you, anybody with the Hawaiian Miles credit card. I have one. Me too. Me 3. And you know who to call. 422-2222. So ladies, what's your next stop? Las Vegas.
This segment of U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii is brought to you by Trade Publishing and Printing, Hawaii's leading publisher of professional magazines and directories.
December 7th, 1941, changed the lives of all in Hawaii. Many of our members, their families, and loved ones recall some of those harrowing moments. We heard the story of the civilian worker at Hickam Airfield that morning. Around 8 a.m., he went outside, and what he saw shocked him, as fighter planes were everywhere. It was the start of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Sterling Kale, one of a handful of survivors still living today, he had just come off duty that morning when the attack began. He thought he was training until he saw the rising sun on the wings and the fuselage. These stories must never be forgotten. The Plumbers and Fitters Union are pleased to do our part to keep the memories of those heroes alive.
Welcome back to U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii.
On December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor's ships were bombed by the Japanese, and the United States was thrust into World War II.
Here are Ben and Anita Akohido and my brother Harvey Miura, who witnessed that horrific day.
On the day of December 7th, I was 9 years old at the time. My brother was outside in the yard, and we could hear him yelling, planes, planes, Japanese planes.
It's like going to a war movie and realizing it's not a movie, it's real.
Just ask anyone who was living on Oahu on December 7th, 1941. They can remember it like it was yesterday.
We could see the pilots actually sneering at us. And then I saw bombs falling towards Wheeler Field.
Ben Akohido lived in Wahiawa. He was 9 at the time.
And all of a sudden, we saw an enemy airplane heading towards our house, seemingly to crash at our home. But there was a large mango tree in front of our home that lifted the aircraft over our house, and it crashed about 100 meters behind on what's called Neal Avenue. And there it burned, The bombs, the ordnance went off, 2 houses burned. One I remember was Henry Takeda's house.
Well, I lived in the Takeda house, which is the house that got hit.
Harvey Miura is my brother. I wasn't born yet. Luckily that morning, Harvey wasn't at home.
This Japanese plane that was crashing was trying to get to the power station, which was 2 lots over from my uncle's house. And in the process, it hit the house.
This is what it looked like afterwards. Amazingly, everyone made it out alive.
As we were walking, somebody from one of the houses called us, and they thought we were ghosts because they didn't realize that we were no longer in the house.
That day would change Hawaii and the peaceful life that was all too familiar.
We carried gas masks, we had air raid drills. The presence of the Army changed our community.
Soldiers and other members of the military would soon start arriving by the boatload.
And what happened was that you saw thousands and thousands of soldiers coming into the area at Schofield Barracks and to an area called Area X, and it borders Waiwatan. It was a huge training area.
The landscape changed and familiar places were transformed.
On December 7th, we had our school at Waiwa Elementary. When the attack came, the Army took over the Waiwa Elementary School and it became a hospital. And today, to this very day, it stands in our community as Waiwa General Hospital.
The mission of the people also changed in the wake of the attack.
After the attack, the community really pulled together in a remarkable way. Right after the attack, in the archival records that we have, it shows that physicians across the island were at home, and they went and got in their cars and drove to the Army hospitals to help save lives.
And that was just the start of the entire community coming to the defense of the islands, whether or not they were members of the military, citizens working alongside soldiers.
The civil defense, the local civil defense, was activated right after the attack. And the citizens, were out patrolling. And they helped build barricades on the beaches. Right after the attack, they were afraid that the Japanese were going to return and actually invade the island.
The community formed groups under military command.
Literally tens of thousands of local Hawaiian males volunteered their services to do things like help rebuild roads, deliver food, get the emergency services back working. And then there was also part of that group that actually volunteered their services to help defend parts of the island.
Everybody contributed to the war effort. We had blackouts. We had to be sure that no lights were showing. We had families that contributed to the war effort. My father was a shoe repair manager at Pearl Harbor. My grandfather was a defense worker at Pearl Harbor.
Another important group was the Businessmen's Volunteer Work Corps. And what these gentlemen did was they would train on the weekends, but they would also work their day job, and then after their day job they would at night augment or relieve the soldiers that were out on sentry duties in the various beaches or on the various gun emplacements that were around the island.
Now all of us kids, all of the young guys, we ended up doing the same thing. We sold newspapers to the GIs. We shined their shoes, and we had they took care of us, really. They took care of the kids, for us kids.
I think another important part of this contribution by the community was the Women's Army Volunteer Corps, which also drove buses, they drove trucks, they delivered water, they visit patients in the hospitals.
So many selfless acts across Hawaii, everyone doing their part to help keep the islands and the country safe.
Perhaps the best example of local contributions to the war effort in World War II were organizations such as the Varsity Victory Volunteers, the 100th Infantry Battalion, later the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. You can't find a better example of selfless dedication to country than those organizations.
And I think that grassroots, tough-minded, disciplined approach to the work that they did every day was an automatic connection between at least the residents and the people up here in the Mauca, on the Leilehua Plains, and the soldiers that were now stationed in 1941. And the connection between the communities under those times of stress and duress, they bring people together in special ways, and I think that's an important part of our history. It's also an important part of our connection to the community today.
The contribution from our community was truly amazing. That connection with the military continues until today.
When we come back, we'll learn about the transformation of the 25th Infantry Division and its important role around the world.
We take pride in what we do. We take care of our ohana. We are proud to call Hawaii our home. We proudly serve our country. We are members of IBEW Local 1186. A big mahalo to all of you for your sacrifice and dedication. Proudly brought to you by IBEW Local 1186.
Check this out. Grenades. Explosively intense gum.
The Waikiki Trolley, one of Hawaii's happiest companies, has been serving the visitors of Waikiki since 1986. Sharing that spirits with vacationers from around the world is the essence of what makes Waikiki Trolley an icon over the landscape we call home. Waikiki Trolley has almost 300 employees on Oahu working hard to ensure the safety and the maintenance of each and every trolley. Hi, I'm Maki Kuroda. The Waikiki Trolley, a Hawaii's company, is proud to be serving the visitors and kama'aina of Hawaii.
This segment of U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii is brought to you by Hawaiian Electric Company, supporting a clean energy future for Hawaii.
Welcome back to U.S. Army celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii.
In the past 75 years, the 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning, has served our nation in many forms.
Today, the transformation of the 25th Infantry Division directly reflects the changing threats happening around the globe. In 1941, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president. You could buy a new car for less than $1,000, and a few coins would get you a whole gallon of milk. A lot has changed since then, including the 25th Infantry Division.
But interestingly enough, through our history and over the course of these 75 years, we now see the dramatic changes that can take place and the goodness of military forces, armies working with one another, that today, while 75 years ago, the Empire of Japan was an enemy, today they are our friends, they are our partners, they are our allies, and we are operating together, training together, allied together to solve these complex problems that our world is faced with.
It's been said, to understand the future, you need to understand the past.
The threat had changed, obviously, with the end of World War II and the rise of the Cold War. For the division, they really started focusing a lot on jungle warfare and training their soldiers for jungle warfare, which is something they had experienced in World War II. So they were getting back to that in Hawaii, preparing for potential deployment to Southeast Asia as the Vietnam War started to heat up. And then after Vietnam, there was a period of drawdown as the Army, transferred from a draft force to an all-volunteer force. So the Army had to, adjust to that new reality, and so did the division. And part of that was the incorporation of the 29th Infantry Brigade as its roundout brigade in the 1970s and into the 1980s. So The National Guard played a role in that. In the mid-1980s, that changes, where the division then is reorganized into a light infantry formation. So what that means is that the division lost its tanks. They really started focusing on being a light infantry force. In other words, soldiers walking into combat or being trucked into combat and no tanks. So they're meant to be light, deployable, and very tailor-made towards whatever operations that need to be done. When it comes to organization, the Army always tries to remain dynamic against, what they consider to be present and future threats. So the Army will always reorganize itself in order to do that.
In 2004 to 2005, the Army started reorganizing the 25th ID into a more versatile and agile force. As part of the transformation, the 2nd Brigade Combat Team became a Stryker Brigade. But that didn't happen without a bit of controversy. Environmental and Native Hawaiian groups protested the strikers and even filed lawsuits, saying the large vehicles would damage the terrain and cultural sites. Despite that, the strikers would remain based in Hawaii until recently. In July 2015, the Army announced that it would be converting the 2nd Stryker Brigade into an infantry team to save money. That resulted in a decrease of 1,200 soldiers at Schofield. Still, the Army continues to have a huge presence in the islands, and for good reason.
The 25th Infantry Division is important to the nation's defense is that we're America's Pacific Division. That's who we are, and that's what we've always been. The division was organized in Hawaii. It's called Hawaii home for the past 75 years.
In October, the 25th ID will celebrate its 75th anniversary.
It has always been involved in conflicts in the Pacific. It's been involved in conflicts in major national mobilizations or emergencies outside of the Pacific. Quiet as it's kept, it's been around at some of the most critical periods in American history in the last 75 years. If you recall World War II, Korea, Vietnam, they were there. During the Gulf War, there was a small contingent of 25th ID troops that were there. In the global war on terrorism, division units went into combat in 2004, starting in 2004, and had been continually deploying over the years to like 2012, 2013.
And the soldiers have also played a significant role here at home over the years. They and their families have helped support the local economy, pumping millions of dollars into local restaurants, shops, and other businesses.
I think that relationship and trust that's been formed over decades and decades still exists today in the towns, in the villages, in the local communities, because our soldiers and our families are part of that. We're just appreciative of our ability to be here and be able to serve. We're thankful for what the great state of Hawaii has meant to the 25th Infantry Division and our soldiers. And we're thankful to be able to do the things that we can do as a part of the community here in Hawaii.
And as a part of the Army's latest restructuring, the 25th ID received Apache helicopters. 24 of them arrived in April and are now stationed at Wheeler Army Airfield. Now that we know about the history of the Army in Hawaii, what does the future hold?
Well, I would expect that there will be a continued presence here, of course. I think, the development will continue in ways that emphasizes, more training for 21st century Army. So, it will be much different than it used to be in the past because of technology. Will present a very different type of training.
Yeah, I think the military here in Hawaii especially will have a significant role, being the central headquarters of all the Pacific forces deployed presently all over.
The Army has changed and evolved over the years, just as Hawaii has. From sugarcane and pineapple fields back in the day to skyscrapers and freeways in the present. But at the core of it all, one thing remains the same: the symbiotic relationship between the military and our community.
We're so very proud of our history and our lineage and the connection that we have between the Army and the community. And we're looking forward to celebrating our 75th birthday here in October.
We want to thank 25th Infantry Division Commanding General Major General Charles A. Flynn.
Yes, Carol, and to our military for their selfless service. When we come back, our final thoughts.
Healthier is finding balance. Healthier is a fresh outlook. It's getting your annual checkup annually and never acting your age. Healthier is helping the sickest babies grow up to be the happiest children. At Hawaii Pacific Health, we're leading the way to provide the highest levels of care and partnership with our patients. Together, we're creating a healthier Hawaii.
The Waikiki Trolley, one of Hawaii's happiest companies, has been serving the visitors of Waikiki since 1986. Sharing that spirits with vacationers from around the world is the essence of what makes the Waikiki Trolley an icon over the landscape we call home. Waikiki Trolley has almost 300 employees on Oahu working hard to ensure the safety and the maintenance of each and every trolley. Hi, I'm Maki Kuroda. The Waikiki Trolley, a Hawaii's company, is proud to be serving the visitors and kama'aina of Hawaii.
There's nonstop fun for everyone at the 50th State Fair. Dare to ride the awesome new Equinox. Check out the new games, live entertainment, plus our popular petting zoo. And catch the magical thrills of the amazing Anastassini Circus. Yes, there's something fun for everyone. Come one, come all to the Summer Extravaganza. The 50th State Fair, this weekend at Aloha Stadium.
U.S. Army, celebrating a 75-year partnership with Hawaii, is brought to you by IBEW, Local 1186, lighting your path to the future, and the Plumbers and Fitters Union, Local 675.
Carol, it's been a great half hour of captivating and heart-tugging life stories from some of our heroes.
That's right, Kimo. Tonight, we've learned about the 75-year history of the U.S. Army in Hawaii. We now have a greater appreciation and respect for them and how they work with our community.
And that includes my dad, who was there, helping at Pearl Harbor after the attack.
Mahalo for watching this special edition of Hawaii Stars. We hope the next time you meet a veteran or anyone currently serving in the military, you will kindly acknowledge their service. Aloha. HawaiiStars.com is designed, developed, and hosted by HonWeb, specializing in advertising media and the Aloha Diners Club Guide. Mahalo to Restaurant Suntory in the Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center, featuring the freshest sushi as well as shabu shabu and teppanyaki dining.